Welcome to the Family-Based Alternative Sentencing Program Performance Measures training. Today, we will talk about understanding your program data, how to prepare, how to collect, how to track, and how to report on program data. Understanding and reporting useful and accurate data is a critical component in the solicitation and award process, and can help both yourself and your program manager gain key insights on many decision-making factors, whether those factors be time, resources, or funding. OJJDP uses performance data to not only understand the agency's story, but also to demonstrate outcome-based results. In this training session, we will go over the revised performance measures, and we will discuss collecting and sharing information to help all of us better understand how well the family-based alternative sentencing program is operating on the ground. To make this session as interactive as possible, we have a WebEx chat, and we ask that you respond to any questions that you see on the screen. So, for example, answering the question on your screen here helps us better understand you and your needs around collecting, tracking, and/or reporting data. The agenda for today includes the following program overview: performance measures, collecting and tracking data and best practices, reporting data and best practices, as well as reporting in a pandemic and what to do with personally identifiable information will be presented. Lastly, we will review key documents and resources. As we progress through the training, all website links mentioned during the training will be presented in chat and also provided to you in your copy of the presentation that will be emailed to you later this week. The objectives for today include understanding what the performance measures updates are for your program and understanding the need for a data collection plan for the data you collect between July 2021 and December 2021, reporting in January 2022. Further, you will gain understanding of the performance measure reporting due dates, and as you know, those due dates occur twice a year, July 30th and January 30th. Lastly, you will understand where to find supporting resources. Now, in the showcase sessions we conducted last April, we talked about the newly updated performance measures as outlined in your solicitation or award and located at the OJJDP.ojp.gov website. This training is being presented to you to emphasize the fact that now is the time to start planning on collecting and tracking data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle with the goal of reporting January 2022 on these newly revised program measures. I'd like to pass the microphone to Muniba, who will talk about the performance measures. Muniba?
Thank you, Rebecca. In the Intervention Division, we have several programs. The program that we are talking about today is the Family-Based Alternative Sentencing Program as part of the Intervention Division. According to the 2004 World Children's Ceremony, parental incarceration is the greatest threat to child well-being in the U.S. The Family-Based Alternative Sentencing Program exists to advance family-based alternative sentencing programs that divert convicted parents/primary caregivers from prison, promote the preservation and unification of families, prevent children from entering the foster care and/or juvenile justice systems, and ensure the receipt of needed treatment and services needed to improve child, parent, and family outcomes. The first program goal is to support states, local courts, units of local government, and federally recognized tribal governments to plan, implement, and enhance family-based alternative sentencing programs to divert convicted parents and primary caregivers from the prison system, collaborate with research organizations for program evaluation, support higher education institutions and other organizations to provide training and technical assistance on family-based alternative strategies, The program outcomes are to increase the use of family-based alternative sentencing programs for convicted parents and primary caregivers in the criminal justice system, increase in multi-agency and multidisciplinary partnerships, and demonstration of the cost savings for the criminal justice system, juvenile justice, and/or child welfare systems in the long run. The second goal is to address underlying issues to improve overall outcomes. The second goal is meant to support states, local courts, units of local government, and/or federally recognized tribal governments to coordinate evidence-based and/or promising treatment services and supervision, support employment, housing, life skills, parenting classes, and other support services, support essential collaborations among district attorneys, treatment providers, child welfare, community-based treatment, and service providers, and research organizations. Support cross-system collaboration between the Department of Corrections and Department of Health and Human Services to effectively facilitate and oversee program implementation and ensure development of essential data sharing agreements. Let's remind ourselves of the performance measures process and then discuss the newly updated performance measures found in the Family-Based Alternative Sentencing Program. As you review these with us, please note that there are newly revised performance measures, but you will recognize some of them since not all of them were changed. The framework or logic model used to write the performance measures includes 4 components: inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes. Inputs are program resources such as grant funding and grant and award administration. Activities are actions that convert inputs to outputs and can be anything from identifying key personnel with access to crime and alcohol abuse data to establishing information sharing agreements. Outputs are products or services that are the result of activities such as training or meetings, and outcome measures speak to the longer-term program goals. The newly updated performance measures will require changes in the way that you collect data, and that's why we're here today, to ensure that you understand that you will be reporting on the newly updated performance measures during the July through December 2021 reporting period come January 30th, 2022, and that you have a plan in place to do so. The performance measures document the progress you have made in accomplishing program goals and objectives by collecting data on grantee activities and services. Remember, regular reporting on performance measures outcome establishes your program's growth. You can find your program's performance measures online at ojjdp.ojp.gov. There are a number of different performance measures for the Family-Based Alternative Sentencing Program. Some of the program outputs include individuals served, service delivery, and training and technical assistance. Some of the program outcomes include training and technical assistance, collaboration, protective factors, productive lives, prevention and intervention, program quality, child welfare, and victimization. OJJDP identified and organized the newly updated performance measures to include 3 different categories. The categories include overall measures, multi-program measures, and program-specific measures. In the overall measures, grantees will be asked the same overall questions in every program. This allows analysts to aggregate the data across multiple programs and assist with responding to ad hoc data requests. Multi-program measures impact 3 different types of populations. 1, shared targeted populations, such as children involved in the child welfare system or tribal youth. 2, those with a similar service delivery model, such as mental health services or prevention services. And 3, those with shared outcomes, such as youth provided with defense counsel. Program-specific measures collect data that align with a specific population, funded activity, or desired result. These measures help reflect the unique outputs and outcomes for each specific program and distinguishes them from other programs. Program-specific measures also help track the progress of individual programs over time. Next, we're going to look at performance measures for this particular program. We may not be able to go through all of them, but I wanted to highlight those that I feel may prompt questions over the next 6-month reporting cycle and continuing through the life of the award. To report this overall measure, you will report on the number of individuals served by population. This performance measure captures the total number of individuals served and is broken down by the number of children, youth, young adults, parents and legal guardians, and additional family members. Since OJJDP funding is targeted to serve children and youth, the various categories of individuals served help OJJDP isolate the true number of children and youth served. This measure also captures the number of individuals who were carried over and the number who were new admissions during the reporting cycle to avoid duplication. Percentage of eligible individuals served by an evidence-based program or practice. A program or practice is defined as evidence-based if up to 3 rigorous outcome evaluations demonstrated its effectiveness by measuring the relationship between the program and its intended outcomes and the ability to replicate and scale when implemented with fidelity. A rigorous outcome evaluation utilizes an experimental or quasi-experimental design. This performance measure is calculated using the number of individuals served by an evidence-based program and by the name and source of the evidence-based program. Number of training events held. Training refers to in-person or virtual teaching and learning activities, including planning, curriculum development, and delivery aimed to help individuals apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed by a task, job, or organization. Training events are planned activities that are delivered to help individuals apply knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed by a task, job, or organization. Training events include both the train the trainer and training of individuals. Training requests are any formal or informal inquiries for learning activities, curriculum development and delivery for a group of individuals or organizations. This performance measure is calculated by the number of training requests received and the number of training events held. Percentage of eligible individuals detained. Detention refers to the placement of a youth in a facility under court authority at some point between the time of referral to court intake and case disposition. Detention prior to case disposition is known as predispositional detention. Detention after sentencing is post-dispositional detention. Post-dispositional detention includes awaiting placement or short-term sentencing to detention. Count individuals who received either type of detention. This performance measure is calculated using the number of individuals eligible for detention and the number of individuals detained of those eligible. Percentage of individuals who completed their intended service requirements. Service requirements are the actions, behavior changes, or outcomes an individual is expected to achieve as defined by the program model and an individual's risk level. For example, a diversion program may last 1 month and a family therapeutic program may last 9 months. Grantees will be asked to count individuals who exited a service on any day between the first and last days of the activity period. Exit early means an individual exited the services before the intended time. This performance measure is calculated using the number of individuals who exited the service during the activity period, number of individuals who exited the service on time and who completed the service's requirements, number of individuals who exited the service early and who completed the service's requirements, number of individuals who exited the service after the intended time and who completed the service's requirements, number of individuals who exited the service on time and who did not complete the service's requirements, number of individuals who exited the service early and who did not complete the service's requirements, and the number of individuals who exited the service after the intended time and who did not complete the service's requirements. Percentage of eligible individuals who exhibited improved self-esteem. Self-esteem is perceiving oneself as worthy of esteem or respect. Examples of self-esteem and positive identity include having a sense of purpose, a positive view of personal future, and perception of personal power. an individual's feeling that they have control over things that happen to them. The simplest evaluation design is pre- and post-test, defined as a before and after assessment to measure whether the expected changes took place in the participants in the program. This performance measure is calculated using the number of individuals who receive services to improve self-esteem and the number of eligible individuals who exhibited an improvement in self-esteem. Percentage of eligible individuals who completed high school. This performance measure is calculated using the number of individuals who received a diploma from a traditional high school, an alternative high school, or a general education development, or GED. Number of individuals who experienced a victimization. Victimization is defined as an individual impacted by either a violent or nonviolent event directly or as a witness. A subsequent victimization includes an individual who experienced a new unrelated victimization or a new victimization similar in nature or circumstances to their first victimization. This performance measure is calculated using the number of individuals who experienced a first-time victimization and the number of individuals who experienced a subsequent victimization. Percentage of eligible individuals served by a diversion service. Diversion services are intended to redirect youthful offenders from the juvenile justice system through services and supports an alternative to formal processing in the juvenile justice system. Diversion from formal processing is dependent on successful completion of service requirements. This performance measure is calculated using the number of individuals served who receive diversion services. Percentage of a justice system's decision points informed by the results of an assessment tool. A justice decision point is when an individual and the juvenile justice system or criminal justice system officially intersect, including interactions with a juvenile justice, juvenile court, or law enforcement official. Decision points may include arrest, detention, intake, screening, assessments, referral, subversion, disposition, case plan development, case plan implementation, or aftercare. Grantees will be asked to count the number of decision points when the result or score from an assessment tool determines what happens to a system-involved individual or groups of individuals. An assessment is an evaluation or appraisal of an individual's suitability for placement in a specific treatment modality or setting and the relationship to custody and supervision. For example, individual identified as a low risk receives diversion. This performance measure is calculated using the number of justice system decision points and the number of justice system decision points informed by the results of an assessment tool. Percentage of eligible individuals served by an interdisciplinary team. A multidisciplinary team is defined as when two or more individuals representing different disciplines work collectively toward a shared mission or goal or outcome for the benefit of the same individual or group of individuals. This performance measure is calculated by the number of individuals served by a multidisciplinary team. Percentage of program evaluation milestones reached by research organizations. Examples of program evaluation milestones are development of program logic models, selection of methodology to determine cost savings, and drafting of reports. This performance measure is calculated using the number of program evaluation milestones identified and the number of program evaluation milestones reached by research organizations. Now we'll look at a program-specific measure. Percentage of eligible individuals served by reentry services. Reentry services refer to services that address common barriers to successful reentry from the justice system to the community, such as public assistance and life skills programming. This performance measure is calculated using the number of individuals served who received reentry services. And lastly, we'll review one multi-program measure. Percentage of eligible individuals who re-entered out-of-home care. Out-of-home care is a court-monitored process that encompasses the placements and services provided to children and families when children are removed from their home due to maltreatment. Re-entered means to return to at-home care. A group home is a community-based long-term facility which allows individuals extensive contact with the community. Kinship care refers to the care of children by relatives or, in some jurisdictions, close family friends. Foster care is a temporary service provided by states for children who cannot live with their families. Foster care may be provided by a relative, unrelated foster parent, group home, residential care facility, emergency sheltered, or supervised independent living care. This performance measure is calculated using the number of individuals who re-entered out-of-home care after exiting care, number of individuals who re-entered a group home after exiting care, number of individuals who re-entered kinship care after exiting care, and the number of individuals who re-entered foster care after exiting care. Now that we've reviewed these performance measures, I'm going to pass the phone back to Rebecca. Back to you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Muniba. That was both informative and helpful. We have a short scenario for you now. We have Brenda Sokup. She is a new family-based alternative sentencing grantee, and she's just received the newly updated performance measures. She's attended this learning event, and she's sitting at her desk wondering how to get started. What would you recommend Ms. Sokup do to prepare for data collection July through December 2021 with reporting in January of 2022? Some responses in the past have been to familiarize yourself with these measures, definitions, and questions more closely. Determine who will be responsible for capturing and tracking the data, and who will be responsible for reporting the data into Just Grants in January 2022. And just to clarify, we have received a question regarding that reporting from previous sessions, and I'd like to take a moment and just explain the reporting. FY19 and prior grantees will continue to complete reports in the PMT and submit them in Just Grants during the July submission period. We encourage all FY19 and prior grantees who can close out during the July submission period to do so. FY20 grantees will continue to report on and submit narrative questions in Just Grants during the July submission period. All FY20 grantees plus FY19 and prior grantees whose award has not yet ended will report on the newly revised performance measures in Just Grants beginning January 2022. And I just wanted to add that as a side note there to that slide that we had from Brenda, because we have, again, received a question about that when we were on this slide previously. So we'll move on now to reviewing several best practices while collecting and tracking data. Creating a data collection plan requires a good deal of pre-planning and preparation. When creating a data collection plan, best practices often include locating the performance measures for your program, understanding what each question is asking, and determining how to answer that question, even if that answer is a 0, and creating a plan to identify when and how you will collect the data. For example, what type of tool or instrument will you use to collect the needed data? Has the tool or instrument been validated and or used before? How accurate is this tool or instrument? And who will collect the data using the tool or instrument? There are several best practices you can implement when collecting good data. You want to be proactive in your approach. You want to designate staff for the coordination of the performance measured data collection process. You want to review the progress reporting questionnaire before entering data. You want to ensure that designated staff participate in trainings. You want to pay attention to communication from Just Grants. And lastly, if applicable, you want to review, edit, and validate data with subgrantees before submission. You are required to enter data on all performance measures that relate to the activities described in your approved OJJDP grant application and carried out with OJJDP funding. As a grantee, you should plan to collect data on behalf of all of your subgrantees. Some things to think about as you plan to collect and track data include timelines and resources. After all, this can be a lengthy data collection period as noted in your solicitation. Some of the questions you may want to consider while planning include duration of data collection and document version control. Does your plan include a beginning, a middle, and an ending date? How will you manage documents over that time period? For example, would you track them using an Excel spreadsheet, for instance? Regarding location and access, how long will you store the data? Who will have access to it? And if it is stored on a shared drive, who is given permissions and by whom? Lastly, how will changes be communicated? How will the data be validated and edited if applicable? We'll next review several best practices during reporting. In the January 2022 reporting cycle, you'll be reporting on the newly revised performance measures and narrative questions. Narrative questions provide you with the opportunity to answer or address these topics. What do the numbers you reported on in your performance measures actually mean on the ground? How does your work impact your community? You want to use the narrative to walk the reader from the numeric outputs to the tangible outcomes. And you want to use specific and detailed concrete examples to illustrate your points. Other things to think about, including in your narrative, include providing evidence to support conclusions, answering the question, what has funding allowed me to do that I could not do prior to receiving funding? And could include words like COVID-19 and pandemic when explaining COVID-19 adjustments to your program. Let's discuss best practices for reporting in JUST grants. Common issues arise since you're required to respond to every question. When reporting zeros, if a measure does not apply, you can enter a zero value and then add an explanation by selecting the comments field. A brief description, such as we are still in our planning period or there was no activity during the reporting cycle, are acceptable responses in JUST grants. Avoiding duplication in counts can also be very challenging. Having more than one person review the data, for example, a program manager, can ensure duplicate data does not exist in your reporting. And as you know, reporting is awards-based. Another best practice for those of you with multiple awards when trying not to duplicate data is to spend down funds and create a final report of activities you performed for the oldest award first before beginning to enter data and reporting on another award. If this is not possible, prorate your quantitative data according to the amount of each award for those, of those of you with multiple awards. You want to contact JUST grants with any concerns related to error messages found in JUST grants. You can save your data and resume data entry at a later point in time in JUST grants. And for more information on JUST grants such as this, please visit the YouTube video using the link provided on the screen and posted in chat. Also, you may want to contact the PMT Help Desk for any questions related to progress reporting or reporting on the newly updated performance measures. You are encouraged to reach out to your program manager with any questions or concerns. As mentioned previously, some grantees may receive funding from other awards. A service should be reported under one program or the other. The same service cannot be reported under multiple programs. If you have difficulty tracking services for each specific award, Work with OJJDP program managers to identify an appropriate method for prorating all services to allocate numbers to each award. This session only focuses on January 2022 reporting. For this July 2021, all discretionary awards will start collecting data on the updated performance measures. You'll be reporting on the activities that occurred between July and December 2021 and January 2022. Discretionary awards reporting deadlines are July 30th for the reporting period January 1st through June 30th, and January 30th for the reporting period July 1st through December 31st. Collecting and tracking data that contains personally identifiable information, also known as PII, should be done with consideration towards the Privacy Act of 1974. Broadly stated, the purpose of the Privacy Act is to balance the government's need to maintain information about individuals with the rights of the individual to be protected against unwarranted invasion of their privacy. In accordance with this act, you want to collect only the data you need. If you are using printed materials, keep sensitive PII in locked desk drawers, file cabinets, or similar locked enclosures. And when using sensitive PII, keep it in an area where access is controlled and limited to persons with an official need to know. Reporting in a pandemic. You should complete progress reporting to the best of your ability and submit it before the deadline. Every progress report form includes a narrative field or multiple narrative fields where you can provide additional information about the data. Use that space to explain any incomplete or missing data. You are encouraged to use the narrative field that asks for additional information about the effectiveness to describe COVID-19 related adjustments to programming and other activities not captured elsewhere on the form. If you cannot provide accurate count for numerical progress report fields because project partners do not have access to files, for instance, you should leave those fields blank rather than providing estimates. As a best practice, you want to communicate setbacks and successes through the use of progress reports as well as with your program specialist. So, how do you report on activities now that they've been shifted to online remote platforms and when you've not been collecting detailed data on individuals served like you did in face-to-face sessions? The short answer here is to do the best you can and make very good use of those narrative fields. I'd like to pass the microphone to Muniba, who will discuss the various resources at your disposal and where to go for assistance. Muniba?
Thank you, Rebecca. Now we will briefly go over resources and where to find additional assistance. The PNC Help Desk is available to help you with any questions you may have about responding to the progress reporting questions or performance measures. You can contact us by calling the number on the screen or emailing ojjdp@ojp.usdoj.gov. For a faster response, we encourage grant award administrators to send us an email. The OJJDP PNC Help Desk contact information is available on the screen. Our office hours are Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, except for U.S. federal holidays. The PNC Help Desk returns emails and phone calls within 24 hours, so please don't hesitate to leave a voicemail or email even after business hours. Just Grant support. If you have questions about the Just Grant system, for example, accessing the system, please call the number on the screen between the hours of 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and Saturday, Sunday, and federal holidays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you experience any issues with Just Grants, we strongly encourage grant award administrators to reach out to Just Grant support. Just Grants information, such as instructions on locating, completing, and submitting performance reports in Just Grants, can be found on the OJJDP.ojp.gov website or by viewing the video available on the screen. You can also log into Just Grants at justicegrants.usdoj.gov. Thanks. Now back to you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Muniba. Let's take a moment to reflect on what was presented here today. First, we discussed each of the program-specific family-based alternative sentencing performance measures, noting the specific instances where data would need to be collected and the type of data needed. Next, we discussed best practices for planning, collecting, tracking, and reporting on data for the July through December 2021 reporting cycle. An important takeaway is the fact that OJJDP understands that data collection is beginning. Organizations, agencies, and subawards need time to review, process, and create a data collection plan for these performance measures. Some indicators will be easier to collect than others. We encourage you to work with your partners and TTA providers on a data collection plan. So, what's next? Next steps include the opportunity we all have to collect data that will inform change down the road. For our part, those changes come in the form of edited performance measures. You'll be receiving a fillable feedback form that you were requested to complete and return to the PMT Help Desk once you have familiarized yourself with the newly updated performance measures. There is one form per performance measure with plenty of room for narrative. Providing us with feedback on the newly revised performance measures gives us the information we need to fully understand your needs or those challenges that you face implementing that particular measure. Thus, collecting your feedback now on the newly revised performance measures informs the refresh cycle 1 year after the pilot has occurred. For now, however, no planned changes to the performance measures are being considered, and we would request that you do not make any changes to any of the documents posted online or provided in training sessions. And this concludes today's session.